This is Shamika and welcome back. Happy New Year. It's officially 2024 and we are coming in strong this year and we're going to maintain it throughout the year. So come on in, come sit with us, get some information as we talk about the most frequently asked questions of 2023. And I'm pretty sure at least one or two or three or four of these questions you've either asked yourself or have answered or wanted to get answered along the way. So join us and make sure, since you're here, that you go ahead and follow us here on our YouTube channel so you can get alerts on part two, because this will be a two-part video, and get more information about what we're doing here over at the NOSA group. And definitely feel free to jump in and be a part of our office hours as well. So let's get started. So essentially what we did here was we put together a presentation of the frequently asked questions that we have throughout our social media. So it's just not our Facebook group, and compiled some quick answers for you guys. If you have different experiences or you want to share your experience, feel free to go ahead and drop it in the comments. Otherwise, all of this is my take on it, and I'll definitely reference some tools and resources for you guys along the way. And if you're really interested in getting something to put your hands on, feel free to check out our free special we're running in January, where we're giving away a 30-minute consultation for free. So let's dive into these questions and get some answers. So this is definitely the most frequently asked question. I want to say this is the question that we see every year, year over year, and that's how do you get started? And I hit on three key things when I talk about getting started, just because without these things, you actually kind of walk with blinders on. You walk blindly. So getting these things taken care of first is usually simple. Sometimes it can be complicated. Many times it may ask or require you to make a couple of extra steps, but you want to create a business plan. And you don't have to go out there and pay somebody for a business plan. Please don't. You can go on Google, go online, you can go on Fiverr, you can go to your local store if you're an in-person kind of individual, but create a plan just like you would any other area of your business. You don't want to jump into this, spend a lot of money, and then feel like you wasted your time. So put together a good plan. You want to make sure you get a business license. Of course, in some states, they may also require that you have a nursing pool, healthcare, medical staffing types of license, and we indicate that on our website, those states that have those special indications. But be mindful that a lot of staffing regulations are happening over the last couple of years, so things may be changing in real time, but will definitely help point you in the right direction. And then, of course, you want to set goals for yourself. And these are things that you can include inside of your business plan, but I encourage them to be a balance of personal and professional goals so that you can start to see progress along the way in your business and getting started. Our next question, how much does it cost? And this question is key because you want to include this as a part of your business plan, but you also want to be thinking about, hey, how much money of my money, investors' money, other people's money that I potentially might be spending in this business. So how much does it cost to start a NOSA or a nurse-owned staffing agency really does vary. So what we try to focus on is the payroll costs. So some of the initial costs that you may have in getting started, maybe a commercial space if your state requires it. You might also want to consider your operational costs. So those are those initial costs around insurance, business insurance, setting up computer programs and platforms for your business to run and communicate with potential clients and employees. And then the biggest expense we found in that getting started process is the payroll. So in our industry, sometimes things are really, really slow, and then sometimes things are really, really busy. So to keep up with your payroll, you want to make sure that you have in place enough payroll or budgeted payroll to cover your employees to ensure that they're paid. So we've estimated about 3 times your budgeted payroll or 3 times the salary of the number of individuals that you have working. So if you have 4 people working 40 hours a week, times that is what you need to have in an account, and that can vary from $25,000 to $100,000. So there's not a set amount, but it is mostly based on the number of employees that you'll have working for you. And a nice thing about the number of employees when you're doing your business plan, you can guess. I encourage people to be conservative about the number of employees. So it might be like 3 or 5 in the beginning. It may even be as much as 10. But whatever that number is, that's what you want to use moving forward and be mindful of as you go through the process. So, how do you find out what needs that your specific business in the state that you're in may have? So some ways that you can go about finding out those needs is starting with your Secretary of State, your Chamber of Commerce. Those are all places that'll talk you or walk you through the process of getting your license, creating a business name, setting up taxes, as well as inform you if there's any special requirements in your state. So you can go to your state's website and find out this information, but make sure that you're going to your state's website. And many times, if your state doesn't have specific requirements, they may not have specific requirements. But just to be sure, I encourage people to talk to a couple of different people. Like I mentioned, we'll drop the link here for our research page, a resource page and map where you can click on the different places that we know do have special requirements, but just be mindful that can change. So you always want to make sure that you talk to a couple of people before you confirm. And sometimes a great starting point would be also your Department of Health, your Board of Nursing. Those individuals can either point you in the right direction or definitely tell you where to start. So, guys, let us know, has one of the questions we've asked so far been a question that you've had? Drop it in the comment box, give us a heart emoji or a smiley face to let us know that one of the questions you had we've answered already. And next, what are the most important things to add into your contract? And this is a great question because we just talked about this during our office hours on Wednesday, and all of these things are important, right? So, a couple of things that I've included here are you want to have minimum hours. So, whether you have per diem, travel, or permanent staff, you want to make sure that there's any sort of minimum hours or hour guarantees, right? So if you're on a contract, a 40-hour, 36-hour work week guarantee, and then also if they're per diem, any guarantees around, which we'll talk about next, which is cancellation. So you always want to have your cancellation policy. It can go from, hey, if your facility cancels in less than 24 hours, we'll charge X number of hours. If your facility, cancels a contract, X number of hours. So you really want to take out the time to look at every single scenario that possibly can happen. So the advice I gave the nurses that attended our office hours this past Wednesday was start with something. Start with what you know. If you're a nurse, you have an understanding of how the industry works and have that be the starting point for your contract. Then take it to a legal professional and have them fill in the blanks where you may have missing things. It could be things specific to your state. Like we know the state of California, overtime starts after 8 hours and not 40. So that's definitely something that you want to include. You want to include your bill rate sheet as well as on that sheet, include overtime bill rates, holiday bill rates, all the different types of bill rates that you'll be billing for your business. So the traditional one are regular holiday overtime, but just be mindful of any other types of bill rates like hazard or something of that nature. Um, some other things you want to include in your contract are you want to talk a little bit about the invoicing process in the contract. So you want to include, hey, invoices will be sent out weekly to your accounting department. You also want to mention the communication ways that you'll be using within your agency. So you want to cover as many things as possible to eliminate any, and guys, I'm so serious, any what ifs. So if it's a what if, put it in the contract. If it's not in the contract, it really does present challenges for enforcement. And as I mentioned before, with some regulations for staffing businesses changing, you want to make sure that your contract is in compliance with that as well. So some things around non-competes in certain states are no longer, you're no longer able to put into contracts. Um, you also want to talk about conversions if you're requiring the facility to pay a fee to convert your employee to theirs. So just think of every scenario and put it in the contract and get it with an employment legal professional who can fill in any areas that may be questionable. Let's keep it going. I think we're here at question number 4. So, question number 4, can my agency hire 1099 workers? This question, I want to say we've answered since 2017. And honestly, the answer has changed quite a bit. So, one of the things that's important with this question is around what is a 1099 and does this particular role qualify for that? And we've seen it, I've experienced it. Nurses in different professions in different states operate in a 1099 capacity with an agency. But I encourage people to understand that just because it's happening doesn't mean there's a problem with it. But I feel like since the pandemic, it's been happening more, which is why we've seen some more regulation around that. So back in, I want to say September, there was a letter sent to the Department of Labor to provide clarification around this exact topic. If we have the link, we'll drop the letter in there for you to read. There hasn't been any sort of final determination on it as of yet, so it's still kind of up in the air. But it is around, can nurse staffing agencies or healthcare staffing agencies have 1099 workers, and whether or not that's legal or it's appropriate, and that the Department of Labor will look at it and put something in place that would cover essentially all agencies in the U.S. So as I mentioned, some agencies do it. The introduction of a lot of platform style nurse hiring or healthcare staffing hiring or marketplace style hiring or on-demand apps has really changed, what that looks like and what people look for. I'm nobody's legal professional, so I'm just kind of speaking from my experience. But you want to keep in mind that yes, it's happening. I would guess to say that it probably won't continue to happen as we move into 2024. I do think that something will come down from a federal standpoint of view as far as saying, hey, this is what governs being a healthcare staffing business, and this is what you can and you cannot do. So just keep in mind, sometimes it's become a federal situation. When it becomes federal, then it kind of affects all of us. Um, from a business standpoint of view, there can be major implications if you misclassify your employees. So make sure that you're connecting with legal and tax professionals when it comes around doing this type of thing. Just because having them operate as a 1099, they're not paying taxes, you're probably not paying taxes. So things of that nature can definitely open you up for being audited. Some people have experienced it in real time. So I just tell people with this situation, it's one of those, it's far from black and white. It's very gray, probably a little bit blurry. So really think through the process and make sure that you've covered all your bases if you decide to do it. And know that it may be something that'll change in the future. So thank you guys. So if you're here, if you need to take a break, we've gone through the first 5 questions, frequently asked questions of 2023. Thanks for hanging out with us. Definitely go ahead and like the video and then click the alert bell so that you can get updates on our part 2. We'll try to drop both of them at the same time. Make sure to follow us. I hope this answers your questions. We have about 5 or 10 more questions to follow to recap for 2023. So definitely join us again here on our YouTube channel and get more updates about our frequently asked questions, and check out some of our other videos about hot topics happening in healthcare staffing. Hey, NOSA community, and welcome back. Welcome back. We're here with part two. We're just going to go ahead and jump all the way in. Welcome back to part two of our 2023 frequently asked questions recap. We've already covered 5 questions of our 15 questions that we've listed here in our frequently asked questions recap. If you guys want us to continue, go ahead and click the like button and we'll do a part 3, as we have tons of questions. We get questions every single day. Sometimes they're duplicates, but we definitely enjoy getting the questions from our community. So these questions have come from all over our social media platforms, and we compiled them into the top 15, and we're going to be talking about them today. So if you have some questions you want us to answer, we'll add it to the mix, and we'll probably continue the recap for 2023. And if one of your questions has been answered, go ahead and do a heart emoji or a smiley face emoji, just so that we know the questions are getting covered. And the first 5 questions that we did, it was more about the getting started process. And I think these questions that we'll be talking about next are a little bit more in depth. So taxes, this is always a great question, and we have a 2-parter here, and it's around what's the difference between 1099 and a W-2. So one of the main differences is that 1099 is not an employee, but it is an independent contractor. And it's an independent contractor where they create their own schedule, they come with their own materials, and decide the type of work that they're going to do. On the other hand, your W-2, and these are summaries, guys, is an employee and is working for a specific company. So they're an employee of your company. And their work is directed. They typically don't work independently in the same way that independent contractors do. And they have a level of supervision as far as how to do things and how to go about doing them. So I hope that answers some of the questions around the differences. And let's jump into the second part of this question, is in terms of taxes, what's the difference between 1099 and W-2? So this could be a little bit tricky, but some of the main differences that we've seen when it comes to 1099 and W-2s as far as like taxes is concerned is that traditionally 1099s don't have taxes taken out. They're responsible for paying their own taxes. And they invoice their hours, or they invoice their work if it's a project work, and then they receive all of the monies for that particular project and are responsible for covering and filing any of the taxes with regards to that particular project assignment that they're on. Many people say that it saves time, it can save money, but the misconceptions that I think people have about 1099s is that they don't have to file taxes. That's absolutely not true. So if I'm a company and I work with 1099 people, I file taxes on my 1099 people, and that's how they are responsible for filing taxes. So I send them a form. I think it could be a couple of different names for the form. It's not a W-2, so it's not a W-2. But they get a form. I want to say it's a 1099K, and that shows the wages that they received and then any taxes or any amounts that were taken out. The difference is a W-2, they do pay taxes, through the regular running of payroll. The company that they work for also pays taxes, so there's an employee, right? And there's an employer side as far as paying taxes. And then at the end of the year, they receive a W-2 tax form, outlining, taxes paid, any, Medicare, Social Security, any 401k or things like that. And as far as their payment, commissions, bonuses, stuff like that. So that's the main difference. And I always have to tell you guys this, I'm not a tax professional, so I'm just giving generic answers. But these are definitely things that you can Google yourself. And I would encourage people to check out the irs.gov website because that's the best resource to get information about this type of stuff. I also would connect with a tax professional if you're still kind of on the fence as far as understanding, because things aren't as in layman's terms as we perceive them. So definitely make sure that you have a clear understanding. And if we have some time this month, we'll actually probably do some Q&As around tax questions. So so you're already here, you're already listening. You might as well go ahead and follow us. Go ahead and click that follow button here and subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out some of our amazing videos that we're putting up. Like I mentioned in the first video, it's officially 2024, and here at the No Group, we are going strong all year long. So go ahead and check us out on your favorite social media. We're on all the platforms, but since you're here on YouTube, go ahead and start here and get some information, and feel free to engage, ask some questions, share some videos, like some of the videos, and get some of your information that you need to be successful in your business in 2024. And we're moving right along to, okay, this question. So as I mentioned, the 1099 questions have been coming in for like 7 years. So we're really jumping in there. To become my own first employee, do I just make myself a 1099 contractor? It depends. Um, and that's really the best answer. And here I put most states, nurses are not considered 1099s. You can set up yourself as a hired employee, which means you're paying taxes. You're being taxed on your wages based on your billable hours that you're billing the facility. So it just depends. That's something I would have a conversation with my accountant on if I was you. A lot of people have taken the notion when I say, hey, you don't have any employees, you can work your business. Of course you can. As long as you have experience in that area, yeah, you can work your business. But it doesn't mean you working your business means that you're a 1099. So I would definitely make sure that you come up with a plan around that, get with a tax professional accountant type so that they can give more direction as to how it works in your respective states. Where do you all order background checks? And we recommend Universal Background, but there are a lot of other companies out there. And if you click here, you'll be sent over to our partners directory. So I would check them out. And you want to get with a company that can provide you with the types of backgrounds that you need, taking into consideration that there are a few states out there where you can't really have like a third party do the background. For instance, in Delaware, you have to go, there is no third party. You have to go to a specific state agency and get your background and drug screening taken care of. So that's not something that can be outsourced. So make sure you do your research to find out whether or not your state allows the outsourcing of background screenings. I know that New Mexico, you could outsource it. Delaware, it was an in-house, it was a state agency that did it. And then in a couple of other places, it just depends. It just really depends on that particular agency as to whether or not you could use a third party company to do those types of things. So just check it out. Check out our partners page and definitely shop around. So shop around to find out the company that works best for you and go from there. The next question, is it normal for some larger companies to have a vendor agreement contracts? Yes. So some of your larger companies, and I think in this question they're asking about vendor management systems, MSPs, but it can vary as far as like the type of agreement that they have. And typically in the VMS space, you will sign an agreement that they provide you. And that'll include a rate sheet, that'll include do's and don'ts, locations, you know, names of facilities, as well as types and positions that they staff for. So that's pretty common when you're working with vendor management systems. Next question, what can I do if the hospital or clinic breaches their contract? So this can be a little bit tricky because it really depends on what was breached. So when we talk about putting together like your plan and your business plan, you really want to factor in things like situations like this, access to legal counsel, access to accounting and tax professionals, just so that it allows you to be able to get these types of situations corrected. In this question, I'm going to kind of guess through a little bit of some of the scenarios we've seen as far as the breach piece, like which part of breaching this person might be referring to, and give a little bit of my take on stuff like that. So if you're talking about breach as far as like a payment type of breach of contract, there should be a process in place, one within your contract, and then another process internally around, hey, once your invoice is X number of days past due, you have to pay the invoice plus these late fees. Once you're no once the invoice is in collections, then this is the process. It could be after 45 days, we're no longer sending staff. You would have to reach out to our attorney or our representative to negotiate any sort of payment. So, and from a non-payment standpoint of view, I would do that. But from a position of, oh, I work with the hospital, now they want my employee to work with the hospital, but maybe they haven't paid the fee that I have in my contract around that process. So with that being said, that's different. As I mentioned in a couple of videos before, some states are eliminating the ability to create non-competes or to create where the agency can be compensated for an employee leaving and going to the facility that maybe they're working through the agency with. So some of that is changing. So assuming that that's the case where they didn't pay or they acquired your staff member without first communicating with you, that can be tricky because you really want to think about what the long-term impact could be around moving towards legal steps in that situation. So ideally, you have an employee, they work with you, the facility says, oh, we love Shamika, we want to bring her on board, can we keep her? You agree to it, they pay the money, and then that becomes, you guys agree to a date, and then that becomes the exchange. Unfortunately, sometimes it's not like that. And in those situations, I encourage people to really communicate with your staff as far as explain to them the process. Because as agency owners, you have to understand that there's always going to be instances where staff members would want to go on board with the client that you're working with. And being upfront and honest with your staff members about, hey, we understand it, we get it, this is the process, is way more beneficial than not saying anything and then kind of feeling like you were backhanded because you found out about it after the fact. Um, any sort of legal situation, you have to weigh the pros and cons because when you're dealing with legal breaches of contracts and stuff like that, you have to deal with time, you have to deal with money. You may not get everything back, you may not be made whole. And then the other piece around the legal stuff, or specifically breaches of contract, you have to have proper documentation. So if something happened and you have no documentation of what was going on, you really hurt yourself when you're trying to get that situation settled. So I encourage people to really try and think about it, get advice on, what your options are, make sure that you understand how the scenario may play out in a positive or negative way for you as a small agency owner, and then finally make the decision that you feel is best. So, and I think we're wrapping it up. And like I mentioned before, I think we'll probably do a part 3. And if you have some questions you want us to answer in our frequently asked questions for 2023, feel free to drop them below in the comments. But as we conclude this journey through some of the most frequently asked questions of 2023, the NOSA group, we hope that we've demystified some of your questions around talent acquisition, contracts, 1099s, and the process of getting started. Whether you're a company looking for the perfect hire or seeking individual clients for your business, we are here to redefine your experience in the staffing arena. So we want to thank you for joining us in this exploration that may continue into some of the frequently asked questions. And we just ask, hey, check out our website, like this video, and subscribe to our channel.